Welcome to today's episode of Between Neens and Deens. My name is Nina, and I'm joined by my best friend, partner, and baby daddy, Dayon.
And together, we're a couple of 20-something-year-olds just trying to navigate this whole first-time parenting thing.
So we're laying it all out there and talking about all the things you wish your parents told you about love, sex, and happiness. So this week we are talking all about being the breadwinner, and that is my role. Dayon is my sugar baby.
A proud sugar baby.
And I mean, it's not like super cut and dry like that. Obviously, like, Dayon does do work and things, and we'll get more into like talking about how housework is also work. It's just unpaid work. And kind of how we got into this position, because I don't think either of us ever expected this from like when we first met, obviously, and even up until like maybe the last year. Like, I don't think either of us really thought this is what our life would be like, but I feel like since having our baby, our roles have kind of solidified more, where it's like, okay, like, what is our money plan?
Yeah.
And this just makes the most sense. So do you want to talk about what it's like to be a sugar baby? I guess we'll just start with your perspective. So I guess we can kind of do like a really quick rundown of maybe like jobs that you've had and your experience in making money.
Yeah.
And how we got to this place.
My jobs are always kind of minimum wage jobs. Just regular, barista stuff, or like
Working at the nightclub,
and just like basically living off of the tips, right?
Mm-hmm. But you made pretty good money.
It was pretty good.
You just never counted it.
See, that's the thing. Like, I was never aware of like how much I was making, because I wasn't in a position in my life to like really think about that. I mean, I should have thought of that, but
yeah,
I was more like really wanting to spend and just enjoying that. What is that called when you get that quick hit
of serotonin?
No, when you have like instant gratification, that's what it is. And then so it was like I get the money as cash in my hand or whatever it may be, and I just like spend it on things that I currently want.
Yeah.
And it was never thinking about like saving for the future, you know what I mean? So that definitely, like, as I got older, I really thought like I should be saving. And anytime I try to like save money, I realize that like my expenses always catch up to me.
Yeah.
And I always have to dip into the savings. So it was always really difficult for me to do so. So I tried to take things a little more serious, and I tried to work more towards like getting graphic design job, because I thought that I would be able to make more money doing that. Mm-hmm. But I realized that like I wasn't necessarily happy doing that. And it was more just because I went to school for it. So I was like, I should be doing this, but it never really brought me that like joy that I wanted from it. And in the same time, it didn't really bring me that money that I needed. Yeah. And I think after meeting you and I mean, even when you started off, like when we first met, like what you're doing wasn't really making that much money. Like you still had to have side jobs as well.
Yeah.
And we were splitting everything down the middle. And I wouldn't say that it works or it didn't work. Like, I think we just figured out what was best for us. And I think like because your job started to really kick off and like make a lot of money, and I think the decision came down when it was about you saying that every time I leave to go to my like odd jobs to go to work, it basically leaves you like I don't want to say helpless, but it left you like,
well, like I had to clean up everything. So like basically this is kind of going back about a year, maybe 2 years, when we started living together. Like we kind of touched on this in our moving in together video, and like what we would talk about a lot, or what we'd argue about a lot. But basically I would work from home, and like obviously I like record videos and like create content within our home space. So if it's messy, I can't work. Like I mentally just can't do it. Like I need it to be clean so I can sit down and be like, okay, like what are we doing now? So basically we would have people over, and we'd have like house parties or game nights, and we go to sleep. Yeah, we like go to sleep, and the next morning it's so messy, but Dayon has to go to work. And so I'm like, okay, like I'll clean it, because like I have to, so that I can actually like concentrate that day. And of course I spend the whole day cleaning. By the time Dayon gets home, I'm finally sitting down to do work, but then like Dayon either like doesn't want to help me clean, or he's like tired, or like, which is like fair, like you worked a really long day. And I think it was just really frustrating for me, because I was like, I can't even do my work, and like this is my space. So then I tried like getting my own office and like things like that, and like it would kind of help, but like not really. Like at the end of the day, what I really needed was like Dayon to help me do a lot of this stuff at home, and like that should be shared, that should be split, but also at the same time, like I was making more money, and in what I was doing with like content creation, I did also kind of need help. Obviously, I needed help with like somebody to help me take photos, somebody to help me like edit every now and then. Like it was just getting to be too much for me to do on my own and like create content at the rate in which I wanted to. And so like after talking about it, I think we just realized that I needed more help than I was getting, and you didn't want to be working the jobs that you were working.
Yeah.
And like also all of the housework that needed to be done, like I hated doing it. And it's not that you really hate or like doing it, it's just that you're way better at it than I am. And like, I mean, especially
Funny
like
how that happens. I have no experience doing it prior to.
Yeah, but you're just very particular. And even if I do something, like you'll always want to correct what I'm doing because
Oops.
but I don't know, it's like not necessarily a bad thing. Like you do things your way and you do it very well. Especially when it comes to like very meticulous type things. And when it comes to cleaning for me, I'm just kind of like, I need this to just appear clean, but I won't do like a deep clean or anything like that. But you'll do that. So basically, like, I guess you were working a bunch of jobs that you didn't even like, and I was doing a job that I really enjoyed that I needed more help with. So we were like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, do you want to start working for me? Like, actually working for me, and like the money that I make essentially would be the money that we make. And this is where it gets like really confusing. And like, I don't even know. Now we have it kind of more figured out, but it was kind of confusing because like, you're my boyfriend, we spend a lot of time together, so at what point are we working together, at what point are we just together?
Chilling, yeah.
And like I think that work-life balance was like never distinguished, and it still isn't, and I don't know if it needs to be, but like that's how like I just didn't know how to pay you because you were doing work for me to help build my career, but I didn't know how to monetize that or be like, okay, this is like an hourly rate or whatever. So I don't know, it's kind of hard because like even though I would pay you, we would also, you know, like eat out together. And then like at that point, am I paying for it? Or are we splitting it? Like it got so confusing. And I know this isn't an experience that I think a lot of people probably share. It's quite different, I think.
But like it's improvisation too. Like we kind of,
it was hard. It was really hard to figure out all of it. It was some trial and error.
Like, and then now we kind of have a system down where like for most of the food and all this stuff, like I'll pay for it, and then.
Well, but at the end of the day,
so the thing.
You'll put it on your credit card, but I pay your credit card.
Well, okay, but this is the thing. Like I'm working for you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same as me going to a job, except instead of that company paying me, your company is paying me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's all collectively our money.
Yeah.
Because we're a unit.
Like it is and it isn't, and like, but that's the thing.
It's difficult to explain because it's like I am working for you and you are paying me.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing though. Like, if you were to just reverse it into like a traditional role, you know, like say like a marriage, the way that my parents had it, where my dad works, my mom, well, she works a little bit now, but back then she didn't work, and she raised us. She was a stay-at-home mom. Like from my understanding of the way that they handled their money was that my dad made all the money, my mom managed all the money and like would save money, and like his money was her money. And so I
feel like that's my family's dynamic too. Like
yeah. Okay, but that's the thing is that it's very simple that way because that's what we're taught is normal. But for some reason,
to have like a joint account.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like the idea that like the person that's the primary breadwinner, that person's money is shared money. But for me, maybe it's just because it was really early on in our relationship. Maybe because we didn't have a child together. Maybe because, you know, like we didn't own a house together. We didn't have any real commitment besides the love that kept us together. You know, so like I think I would. Like, we had talked about that.
Come on.
Okay, yeah. But, like, we had talked about, like, how do we, you know, like, work, like, how do we work out what's my money and what's your money if you're working for me and you're also, like, doing the bulk of the housework, you know, like, the unpaid work. And I think, for me, what was just really hard about it is that I never anticipated being a breadwinner. I never anticipated supporting somebody. And, like, this is just my internalized sexism from like growing up and seeing those traditional roles is like I always thought that somebody else would support me, and even if I was making my own money, they would either be making more money or like we would both be making money, and my money is my money, but his money is also my money. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, so like that's what I grew up understanding. So I think for me to now be like, wait, you have no money. I have money, but it's also your money. Like it's so hard for me to wrap my head around. And like it's easier now, I think, because we've been living it for a while. But it's just crazy how hard it is to like unlearn those things.
Yeah, I think what it is too with how if I'm talking about earlier in our relationship when we did split everything, I was working those jobs, and it would come to a point where we split everything down the middle, and basically it was like as long as the expenses were paid, everything is good, but I can pay off those expenses, but then I can't save.
Yeah.
Right? But then whereas you're able to pay off the expenses and put money in savings account and like work towards a goal of like, you know, moving out to a future home and all this stuff. And obviously that's something we want to do together, but it just like feels bad that like I was never really in a position that was able to bring in that type of income to do that. Do you know
well,
what
it's
I mean?
interesting because like I've read about situations, and this is a little bit like unrelated, but still on the same thread. But like I've read about situations where people, when it comes to splitting rent, like we did everything like 50-50, you know, like if our rent is $1,400, then it's $700 for you, $700 for me. Did I do that math right? Yeah, it's 50-50. But for some people, what I've read is that they'll do it equitably. So like where people feel like it's unfair that you are paying for half, but you can't save, but I can save. So then they do it based on like one person makes more, so they should pay a little bit more. Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't know. For me, I feel like they're two people, so it should just be 50-50.
Is that word like subsidized living or something?
I have
where it's like based on your income or something?
It could be, yeah. But I think that's just like equitable instead of equal. Right? Is that right? Am I using these words right? Yeah. But basically, like, I don't know. For me, don't
fact check us.
Yeah, don't at me. I think for me, I just thought that because there's two of us, it should be 50-50. And I think my mindset was just always like, if you know how much rent is, you need to be figuring out your money moves to be paying your rent. And I know that a lot of people might not agree, and that it might be that, well, this is what I have right now, so I should only have to contribute how much I have to contribute. So I don't debate that amongst yourselves, but I want to go back to that idea of unpaid work, because obviously for both of us, I guess, like we grew up with a structure in which our moms did everything, and I will admit that I definitely didn't consider it work. I remember at one point my mom was like trying to get me to understand like just how much she does for me and like how ungrateful I was for it. And this is when I obviously was in high school and I was being a little shit. But I was like, what do you mean like that's your job? And she got so offended, and I was like, I don't understand why she's so upset, because this is literally her only job. And
that's the sexist norms where they like make you believe that it's a woman's obligation.
And I was like, I don't understand what you're complaining about. Like, you don't have to go to work. You literally, all you have to do is just like pick me up. And it was just, oh man, it's so cringe thinking about it now, because like I understand how much you like. It's just part of adulting. It's all this stuff that you don't want to do. You know, like maintaining the house, like raising children is fucking hard. You know, like, and we've barely even gotten there yet.
We only have 3 months experience.
Yeah, we like dipped like half a toenail in. So like, I don't know, I didn't see it as work, which was like so rude of me. But like that's just how ingrained it was, that like I just saw it as like that is her job, and like that's just what she does, and everything else is fun free time for her. Yeah. So weird.
It's crazy because for me growing up, I don't think that I was ever like, I was never really forced to do any kind of chores around the house, because it was almost always insinuated that my female partner would be the one to do that. Do you know what I mean? But once we moved out, I found myself really wanting to do it. And I don't know why or like how that shift happened. I think it is because I am so particular, and I just like, when someone does the dishes, I'm like, I want to re-clean that. You know what I mean? Or like, I love to keep a place clean sometimes. Sometimes I'm getting so lazy.
Don't fool the people.
Sometimes
it's very, very dirty.
And I think that's another mental thing, is that I leave it because I know that if I'm going to dive into it, I'm going to dive into it so fucking deep, and it's going to be like a whole day ordeal.
Like, that's the thing. We were like reading some articles just now where it was saying that like there's actually a trend where like more and more women are breadwinners. I think like the latest study that they did was in 2018. I think it was like in the US 40% of women were like the primary breadwinner, and they also found that men like actually really wanted to be at home, spend more time with their children, and like do like the stay-at-home dad like housework type stuff. And I think there's like a lot of stigmas wrapped around like that kind of setup, like basically our setup, but it's like increasingly more and more popular. So it's interesting that it's becoming more popular, but like you don't see that representation in media, you know, like it's pretty rare. And if you do, then it's like a very like emasculating, like the issues around it are always very like, you know, like, oh, you're probably either not having sex.
It's almost it's poked fun at.
Yeah. Like it's like, okay, like this is the structure and there's a bunch of problems with it. Not really that like it's a structure that could work. Yeah. And maybe that's why we really struggled and still struggle with like what exactly these roles are and like what our responsibilities are in these roles. Because like it's so rare to see it as an actual representation of like a healthy functioning relationship. So now's actually a good time to do a little plug for modern fertility. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in sex ed, I feel like all we learn about is pregnancy and like how to prevent it, but they never really teach you about planning ahead and like actually preparing for pregnancy later in life. So we're going to talk about fertility. So modern fertility was created as like an easy, affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home. All you have to do is just a simple finger prick, and then you mail it in the prepaid label and you'll get your personalized results in just 10 days. So if you guys aren't familiar with fertility testing, traditional testing with your doctor can cost over $1,000, which is very hefty, but Modern Fertility only costs $159 to get the same information. So if you go to modernfertility.com/BND, you can get $20 off of your test. Also, if you have an HSA or FSA, then you can use those dollars on Modern Fertility. So you'll get insight into how many eggs you have, hormone levels, any reproductive red flags, and the results go in depth into what every hormone means, and you can also talk one-on-one with a fertility nurse to review your results and options for next steps. So right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $20 off the test when you go to modernfertility.com/BND. That means your test will be $139 instead of the hundreds or thousands of dollars that it could cost if you go to a doctor's office. So get $20 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/BND. That's modernfertility.com/BND. Okay, so going back to the stats that we were talking about and like the articles we were reading, we also saw that women that earn more than their male counterparts, I think this is specifically talking about like women that have families that earn more than their male partners, they found that those women are actually less happy, reportedly less happy than women that earn less than their male, I hope I said all that, than their male partners. And so like that's actually really interesting because like they say that, you know, like, and I very much believe the idea that like you can have it all, you know, like you can have the career, you can have the family, but it's so fucking sad that apparently for a lot of women, the majority of women, when you do have it all, that you're actually less happy. And I feel like they said that a lot of it is related to like the idea of traditional roles where even though women were making more, they were also the ones that were doing most of the housework.
Yeah.
And like,
so yeah, so sucks. Even if they leave the house and make more money, have like a good high paying job where they're super busy, the male is still like usually waiting for them to come home and make the food.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like it doesn't, like in the articles we were reading, it doesn't necessarily say that she's the only one working. It's just that she makes more money. So he could also be, you know, working from home or not working at all or still working, just not making as much money. But whatever the reason is, she's making more. And yet she's also doing all the housework.
So now that I guess I'm doing all the housework and you're making most of the money, how do you feel as the breadwinner of this family?
Well, I guess it's only really been a year. Well, actually, yeah, that's actually been quite a while. It's been a year where we've had this like kind of setup. And I think that it's had its ups and downs for sure. Because I think this, you know what? Like, I think that I'm very happy because, like, obviously we, like, have a new baby and I, like, am very much in love with our baby. So, like, a lot of the joy comes from there. And, you know, like, our relationship is currently good. But I do think that we've had issues this year with trying to figure out, like, what are your responsibilities and what are my responsibilities, because I felt like, okay, I'm the main one that's working, so if the agreement is that you're going to be doing the housework needs to be done.
And
And
there
it
was
needs to
times
be,
where I didn't vacuum.
but
Or
it's
didn't want
also
to.
like, it's not just the fact that it needs to be done, it needs to be done without me telling you.
Yeah.
So like, I think this is where a lot of our arguments come in, and this is, I think, very common from what I understand of the internet, like things that I've read, is that women take the mental load. That like it's very common for like, you know, like you say that, oh yeah, well, like I'll do it if you tell me to, but I'm like, why the fuck do I have to tell you? Why do I have to work to make all of our money and then also, you know, occasionally cook for us? Actually, no, 100% of the time cook for us. And then also tell you when you need to vacuum, tell you when you need to organize something. You know, like, why is that? Like, that's not fair at all. The mental load is a lot of the work as well. You know, like traditionally women tend to be the one that like organizes the household, you know, remembers all the important dates, remembers the appointments, and that very much 100% is still me. So like I feel like even to this day we still do struggle with that.
Why do you think that is? I feel like even
Because
even in my family
you have
too,
no
like,
accountability, V.
yeah, I know. But in most of the dynamics that I see, it's usually always the mother that does literally everything.
I think it's
like
because
even with your mother, you said she does all the like the accounting basically,
Yeah.
like the saving and handling the money and handling
I think
the
that there
household.
is a very strong, like, I know for speaking from my own perspective, but I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, is like, I feel like I know for a fact that if I don't do it, you won't do it. And so you might, you know, like I might, if I
These
step
days
back,
I try to catch myself. And
you
to
try,
do it.
but the thing is, like, can I trust that? And I know that I will definitely do it, and I will probably do it better than you can. But I think that's the issue, is the way that we raise our men. And I think, you know, like the way that we raise a lot of children is very much like, oh, it's okay, you won't do it properly, so I'll just do it for you. And it's like, I don't even want to do it. It causes me stress to do it. But like, I will do it faster and I will do it better. Or like, I've convinced myself that I'll do it faster and better than you will, so I won't even give you a chance to do it. So like, that's the thing, is that like, yeah, I feel like you are very much capable of it. You just say you're not good at it because it's never been thrust upon you to do it. But it's not something that I innately am better at because I am a female. It's something that I had to learn because it was taught that as women, you're the organizer. You know, you're the one that's going to be maintaining the household, like all of these things. And so as women, there's all this pressure to excel academically, excel in your workplace, excel at home. But for you,
I mean, I've always been just a massive procrastinator.
but that's the thing, is that like it's not your nature. It's something that you were taught and something that you have been able to get by just not stepping up. Because the women in your life, the women in your life, your mother or myself, we both have been the ones to like pick up the slack, and you're just used to it. So like whereas for me, nobody's gonna pick up the slack if I don't do it. And so like, that's the thing, is that fundamentally in our relationship, like, I love you, but like there isn't a whole lot of trust that like if I don't do it, that you will do it. And that sucks, because it's like, I should be able to trust you. And I think like that is something that I really want us to work on, just because especially now that we have a child together, like I should be able to trust you. I should trust that like if I go away on a trip or something, that you're gonna know to wake him up, get him dressed, like, you know, like do all the things without me telling you to. And like, it's frustrating that the initiative isn't taken.
But if we're talking about our child though, like I'm pretty on top of the things that need to be done.
I think that's debatable.
Really?
I think that sometimes you do, but there's not a whole lot of urgency in what you do.
Well, that's been my entire life though.
Okay, see, but that's the thing. That's what I take issue with. Is that a lot of
me?
No, what I take issue with is the fact that you think that's something that you cannot change, because you keep saying that's just who I am. And if I just kept saying that about my 16-year-old self, I would not be here today. And you just keep telling yourself that year after year after year, and so then change doesn't happen.
Interesting.
Did I tell a lie?
No, it's just something that I need to consider for sure.
Yeah.
It's not like it's something that it can be changed, and for me, I feel like it's just such a hard habit to break.
It is, but you gotta start small.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, it's also about like thoughtfulness, because I think if you realize just how much work you're putting on me to do, if you don't pick it up.
I do care for you. I think it's more of just like...
But the thought isn't there.
Yeah, but that's because I'm literally needing to reprogram my whole way of thinking, which is not an easy task to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for some reason, that makes me think of like now, since moving out, like when you see a spider, I have to like trap it and like throw it out. You know what I mean? As opposed to when I was living with my parents, they would do it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's like just understanding that it's either me or you, and it should just be me, especially because you're the one making all the money.
But it's not, that's the thing too, is it's not just about that, you know, like it's not just like, okay, like I make all the money, so I'm the fucking king and I'm just gonna sit here while you do all the chores, you know, like, slave. But like, if you really are thinking about all the different types of work that it takes to like have our lives function the way that it does, like I do still feel like to this day, like I'm still doing 75 and you're doing 25. Because you do it when I tell you to, or you do it when I get upset with you. And so this is another argument that we've had, just filling the people in. But like another argument that we've had quite a bit is like when we do have the arguments, then all of a sudden you're like, no, like I'm gonna clean, like fuck that guy, I hate that old decky, fuck him. I can't.
Well, cause like I'm embarrassed about like myself when you put myself on blast. You know what I mean? But that's the thing. It's not something that just comes. To me right away.
But okay, like, but that's the thing is that at this point you've conditioned me now to have to pick essentially what it is. I have to pick a fight with you every single day, every single week, so that something gets done, and like that's unacceptable because one, I shouldn't be this stressed, period. And like, you're aging me, man. Like, you're fucking aging me. I'm 24 years old. I have the mind of like a 30-year-old. I don't even know if that's true, but like, I just feel like, you know, like the way that it carries on, and I think that the reason why I want to nip it in the bud as soon as possible is because I can see where our life is heading, and I don't want to, like, for Blue to be older and like be like, wow, my dad, like my dad is so fun and he's like so carefree and he doesn't do anything besides hang out with me, and mommy's always stressed and mommy's all, you know, because like that's what our dynamic is that like I'm always stressed because somebody has to be to get the shit done, and you just get to be fun and free and like not have any responsibilities.
Yeah, it's definitely an urgency thing.
Yeah, so it's just like that's what I want to correct now, because like I think like I definitely kind of grew up with that. It wasn't the same kind of relationship with my parents.
It's hard when you're 28 and need to change the way you've been thinking your entire life.
But I feel like you keep saying things like this, but like every single, like, you know, like it's never too late. And the fact that you believe that there are things that are innately about you in terms of your habits is just not true. You're like creating this mental block that doesn't exist. Like if you want to change something, you can change something. It just takes doing the little extra steps. It takes.
I guess I just want you to understand that it is a very difficult task.
Well, yeah,
it's not something that is changed overnight. But
don't you say overnight? I say 3 years.
Okay.
So let me put that into perspective for you. You know, like
It's not just
It's not just that. You've gone through a lot of growth. I think that right now we need to do a compliment sandwich.
I don't want it. I don't want your sandwich.
No, but like you've gone through a lot of growth. And, like, I'm glad that we've been able to have this relationship where we can both, you know, like, I think that even finding a partner to support you fully 110% the way that you do with me and my work is very difficult. Especially, like, as a woman, I think that in my experience, and I think from what I have heard from other people's experience, is that it's very hard to date, like, a heterosexual male that is not going to feel threatened by either you making more money or just your career in general. And so I appreciate that about you, and I understand that there's a lot
match made in heaven.
There's some work to be done, but I mean, like, yeah, that's the thing, is that there are things that do work really well in our relationship. But I think right now we're just airing our dirty laundry. And
yeah, we're not going to talk about the good stuff right now. That doesn't fix anything.
This whole podcast is the good stuff. So every now and then you need to throw a fight in here. Yeah. Let you guys know that it's real, you know?
Yeah.
But Yeah, I feel like all we've done this whole podcast is just fight for like 20 minutes. But that's the thing is that like these are real conversations that we have, like literally like this is what we talk about. And it takes a lot of time. Like, we still haven't figured it out. Maybe a year from now we'll film a podcast where we've like figured out a structure that makes more sense for us, but
we still come a long way regardless.
Yeah,
and
like it just takes a lot of communication. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm taking in everything you tell me, so I want to jump back to where we were talking about how the breadwinner, when it's a woman, is less happy. And I think another dynamic that I think is different with us is that our job is from home. So I don't know if that plays, or that if that like
I feel like it does 100%
plays a part in it, because like I don't feel like we're unhappy because we're like constantly at home. We're able to spend time with our child, and we're able to do we actually do everything together. So it's not like one-sided where like,
which could be really annoying for some people, but we actually really enjoy it.
we love spending so much time with each other till we're sick of it, but like we don't really get sick of it. But like like imagine if we actually have to go to 9 to 5 and like have a babysitter, and then like
I think for either, that's the thing is that like what they said is that for men in those situations, it was like they were actually saying that they really wanted to be around their children and watch their children grow up. And I think that that's not specific to men or women. I think that most parents, if you ask them, would probably prefer to be at home. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't make sweeping statements like that, because I think a lot of people do really enjoy working. I really enjoy working. I love my child, and I want to...
But going to a job...
Yeah, I think going to work is very different. But that's the thing, is that I can't make generalizations like that. You know, like there are probably people that really enjoy... you know, like talking to coworkers and adults and being in that environment. And like, but I think that the thing, or
every
the distinction
person is different,
yeah.
So that's why it's hard to just kind of make a blanket statement, because it's so different for every single person.
Yeah. Also, another thing that I actually read today, kind of unrelated, wasn't related to parenting or breadwinning, but it was like 5 things that people on their deathbed, or people that were dying, like wished or like regretted. I don't even know, I'm not quoting this well, but basically one of the things,
which they did, basically.
Yeah, well, one of the things was that like the most common thing, especially from men, it was like a nurse that was compiling all of this, but she was saying that every single male patient that she had that was like on their deathbed said that they just wish that they didn't work as much, that wasn't important, that what was important was like the people that they love. And like,
so I'm
this
gonna
is
be good, I'm not gonna have no regrets.
But like, that's the thing, is that this is not a new concept, you know, like there are literally movies, books, everything that talks about the most important thing in your life is the people in your like the people in your life, the people that you love, your family, your friends. So like, yeah, it's not new, and I don't think it's specific to any gender, which is probably why I feel like anyone that feels the weight of like having to provide for your whole family, like having to go to work, having to be the breadwinner, is probably also feeling like they're missing out on a lot. So like, you know, like who knows, like right now we're only 3 months in, but in the future we might experience, you know, like where like very much like you are taking care of Blue full time and I'm working full time. And I really feel like even though I do enjoy my work and I enjoy working in general, I will also very much miss being around for like everything, like taking him to school and like hanging out with him at the park, like stuff like that. So like our like long-term goal, or actually I guess it would technically be a short-term goal, is like I want to be retired as soon as possible. I think that's probably everyone's goal, but like I'm talking as soon as possible, like 40, and 45. Live comfortably with it. Yeah, like just live comfortably and like just raise my children. Well, right now 1 child, but like raise my children, and just like that's my full-time thing. Like I want us to both just full-time parent. Like that would be amazing. But who knows? Who knows if we'll get there? Hopefully we do. But yeah, I think like this is a good place to end it. Got some ups and downs, major roller coaster in this podcast. Some arguments, some real moments, some realizations. Yeah, some things to work on. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it's, I mean, that's the thing, is that we're all a work in progress. Our relationship is a work in progress. It looks different this year from last year, from 2 years before that, and who knows what it's going to look like by the time we're 45. Hopefully a whole lot better, retired, traveling. Just living, just shooting the shits. Yeah. Oh, I guess I just want to say one more thing, like in regards to the statistics and the charts. A lot of it,
I feel is based on, like, when people say that they feel unhappy with the situation, I think it's just because of the pressure of like how like the whole society is built, like where it's like the man is supposed to be making more money, and then if like the male is not making as much money as their female counterpart, then they feel like inferior, you know what I mean? And or like, you know, being away from your family, like having more stress, because I think even
like another study that we had heard of, also I just keep saying study and I don't have a specific one to quote because they're just random studies
just random ones we read,
I've read, but like
stuff.
yeah, like they've also related it to like a lack in, or like a lack in joy, or that sounds weird, but basically their sex drive wasn't as good. Not sex drive, but their sex life, sorry. So like in a non-traditional relationship where the woman is the main breadwinner and the husband's either stay at home or makes less money, their sex life isn't as great, and that could contribute to like the overall happiness level. And like that's the thing, is that like, yeah, all of the happiness is just linked to what society expects of you. So like even if, you know, like you might live in a happiness bubble if it was contained in a bubble, but in society where people have opinions about people have opinions about what role you should fulfill, then that can cause like a lot of stress.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, because that's like pressure put in and like kind of,
I think we don't have that
sets you
pressure,
down a path
though.
that like you don't, if you don't necessarily want to go down that path, like I feel like it should just be so free to be whatever you want to be in whichever direction you want to go.
I think like for us, like the struggle is just figuring out a way to make it work, but it's not necessarily like what will people think of me.
Yeah.
Because like I think it's boss that I make the bulk of our money and I'm able to provide for our whole family, and I think that it's amazing that you love like doing a lot of like the unpaid work.
I think like at this point, because like your margins are really good obviously and you make a lot of money, it just comes to the point where like
You're making me sound like a big baller. Like,
you a
relax.
big baller, boss ass. But like it just comes to a point where it's like I don't, like, if it makes you unhappy for me to go to work, like I have no reason to really do that if we can both contribute to what you're currently doing. Do you know what I mean? So like that's where I feel like
it's not
if it was me,
it's just the way you say it. It's like it doesn't make me unhappy that you go to work.
No, I'm not.
It just doesn't. It's just not the best way for you to be spending your time, because you're going
it's a waste. It's a waste.
Yeah, you're going to work to make very little money.
Yeah.
When instead you could be helping.
We can be happier.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? We can be happy. It's not about you getting upset. It's about the both of us can collectively be happier. You know what I mean?
We need to end this podcast.
That was the decision that we made.
We're losing it. It's like, I hope that you guys also, like, I should let you guys know that we film most of these, or we record most of these
like the day before.
At midnight, right before this episode comes out, which we need to stop doing. But
this is Monday night right now.
But yeah, so I am dead ass tired, and Mama needs to sleep so that she can go make that money. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I hope that you guys found this insightful. I don't know if it would even be helpful, but a fun little chit chat.
A little chit chat and a ramble.
I wonder if it made you guys DM us, but I don't know, because it's like, it's, you know, it's uncomfortable when like people's parents fight and you're just sitting there like, ooh.
Yeah, is this cringe?
Yeah, was this an uncomfortable conversation for you guys to sit through? And if so, you know what? But the thing is also, like, we need to be having more of these conversations. The reason why we're struggling so much, a large part of it, is because we have no structure for what this should look like. You know? And like, I think that one, people need to talk about money more, because if they did, then people would have way better financial literacy, and also like it would just be less secretive. Another thing that I should know is all these studies, I don't know if these people are sharing their financial information with their partners, because we are very transparent about how much we each make. But I know a lot of people and a lot of couples that break up over secrecy about money, or just discrepancies where it's like, yeah, maybe one person makes more and that isn't contributing to their happiness, but a lot of secrecy around money.
I've seen relationships where people didn't even know that they were in debt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's another kind of like, oh shit, let's replan everything. Because it does affect your 100%. Goals together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think for me, like, you know, in the very beginning, like we didn't really talk about it. I was like, oh, he has a job, okay. But like once
I had more money than you when we started.
Yeah, when we started, Dayon was working a 9 to 5, and I was a college student. I had
more assets that aren't really assets. They're just like cars.
Well, those are assets. But yeah, so like you had more money.
They're depreciating assets.
You drove like you had two different cars that you would switch between. So I was like, wow, this like guy's like taking care of himself. Whereas for me, I was like in college and my parents still gave me money, but I was like still working as well. So I like, yeah, I didn't really have money.
For me, it was the shopping. That's where all my money went.
Yeah. But anyways, like, yeah, so like we know a lot of people that haven't talked about money. And when you're building a future together, then it's really important too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so make sure you have those conversations, and I'm just gonna leave it there. You can follow us at Neens Deens.
I'm Dale's Day Off.
I'm your girl Neens, and we'll see you guys next week.
Have
Bye.
a good day. Bye-bye.